Hey y'all, how's it going? I made a original first draft video of this topic tonight. Sorry, apologies for the cuts down here at the jaw and chin. I shaved earlier and accidentally there's accidentally some, deep cuts, but I bandaged it, so hopefully it heals. But anyway, I it's been a long day, but I wanted to talk about something that I normally don't. Well, first of all, if you haven't already seen my announcement on Founding Father Stories, I'm going to be making a special video for the 250th for Independence Day, July 4th, 2026. I'm going to be breaking down historical context into everything leading up to the Declaration of Independence and what happened afterwards. And the fact that not only was America the year that not only was 1776 the year that America was born, but 1776 was also the year that America very nearly died. And part of that has to do with George Washington's defeats by the British in New York, his retreat to New Jersey and Pennsylvania, before his dramatic comebacks at Trenton and Princeton uh, later that year in early 1777. But the topic I want to talk about tonight is the 250th itself, because just tonight, like an hour or two ago or so, a little while back, I made simultaneous posts on Facebook in these groups that I'm a member of. They're both Hamilton fandom groups. One of them is called Fans of Lin-Manuel Miranda. The other one is All Things Hamilton Broadway. As you guys know from just the topics that I make in my video on Founding Father Stories, I'm a huge Hamilton fan. I'm also a huge Lin-Manuel Miranda fan. The post that I made was the simple, like, is anyone excited about the 250th on July 4th? And a lot of the answers I got was no. Like, they told me they weren't excited in their own words. Like, one person said that, you know, they said there's nothing worth celebrating. The founders are rolling over their graves. Um, another person said that America's terrible now, which I read that and I was dumbfounded and just, like, shocked and blown away, and kind of, in my mind, I was heartbroken. And I just want to reference why this may be happening. So if you guys don't pay attention to lots of news, and I try to deliberately stay away from current news because it's nothing but drama crap going on, there's been a lot of scandal in the news that the president's, I'm not gonna mention his name, he who should not be named, I'm gonna go Harry Potter and not mention his name, but there have been scandal that the president was trying to put his image all over the 250th celebrations, and there are even some reporting that suggested that he was trying to coincide his birthday celebration, which is going to be tomorrow on Flag Day. He's going to be 80 years old. There have been some rumors and reporting that he is trying to coincide that with Independence Day, because July 4th is 20 days after Flag Day. But I think also a lot of it has to do with where we are currently in our country right now. And I just want to say this for the people who wrote those comments. I'm not minimizing your anger. I'm not minimizing your frustrations. There are a lot of crazy things going on in America right now. The economy is still out of control, a mess. Prices are still high. There's still wars raging overseas that haven't ended yet, even after more than 2 years, which is just insanity to me. And also, we're more divided at home because of over things like, who we support or voted for. And how some of the foreign policy stuff affect our discourse here at home in issues, related to Israel and the Russia-Ukraine war and all that. But also I've noticed a lot of negativity that America's done for, that it's somehow terrible now, it's never going to get better. I just want to read you the list of moments in our history that the United States has faced moments so dire that collapse, extinction, or the end of democracy seemed possible. These crises tested the nation's unity, leadership, and resolve. So, number one, not surprising because this came before anything else, the Revolutionary War and the Declaration of Independence. At the time of independence, about 1/3 of Americans supported the break from Britain, 1/3 remained loyal, and the rest were neutral. Loyalist militias fought patriots, and the war's early years saw near total division. Without decisive victories and strong leadership, the colonies could have been absorbed back into Britain. And also, without external outside help, we would have lost independence, right? Which is what the Confederacy themselves dealt with in the Civil War, because they themselves recognized that without outside help, they would not win their independence, no matter how well they did at times. So that's number one. Number two, the Constitutional Convention. This, of course, ties to slavery and the lack of effort on the founders' part to publicly address the slavery problem early on, which either directly or indirectly led to the Civil War 80 or so years down the road. I'm not trying to blame the founders for why the Civil War happened. That was totally on the Confederacy for seceding. The founders were in a no-win situation, because if they had publicly forced abolition during the convention, then the South would have just walked out, and you would have had much earlier disunity, especially so soon after independence. Debates over representation, slavery, and federal power were intense. Southern states threatened to withdraw if the Constitution banned the slave trade, and the Three-Fifths Compromise was a compromise that preserved the Union but entrenched slavery. Without compromise, the new government might have fractured. Yeah, exactly what I was saying. Number three, the Panic of 1837, which was a bubble burst causing bank failures, unemployment, and economic paralysis. So this was during Martin Van Buren's presidency, who he avoided direct federal intervention, but the crisis nearly collapsed our economy. The nation's survival came from public resilience and eventual recovery. Number four, the nullification crisis, which is one of the many preludes that led to the Civil War. South Carolina declared federal tariffs null and threatened secession. President Andrew Jackson responded with the Force Bill, authorizing federal troops. Without decisive federal action, the crisis could have escalated into civil war. Yeah, so again, just like with the Constitutional Convention, if that had happened, you would have had a much earlier civil war than the one we actually had. Number five, the Dred Scott decision, which honestly was not cool on the Supreme Court's part. The Supreme Court ruled that African Americans were not citizens and that Congress could not ban slavery in territories. This decision intensified sectional tensions, bringing the nation closer to civil war. Without a compromise like the Missouri Compromise or later the Compromise of 1850, the South could have seceded en masse. Number six, the Civil War. That nearly killed us, but thank God it didn't. The Great Depression, bank failures, mass unemployment, and widespread poverty threatened the economic and political foundations of the nation. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal averted collapse by restoring public confidence in economic activity. Number eight, the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. That almost brought us on the brink of nuclear war. Number nine, the My Lai Massacre, 1968. I assume that's during Vietnam War. One thing I'm surprised I didn't mention on this list was the Quasi-War, or the War of 1812, because all of that happened in the generation that the founding fathers were still alive. And if we had gone to war with France in 1798, there's no way we would have survived, because we were still fragile. We were still technically a baby. And I mean, even today, we're a baby compared to most other countries, right? And we're going on 250 in 21 days. So, times America almost died. Okay. And then another reason why, let me pull up something here. Another reason why I think a lot of people, especially history people, are very concerned about the way the 250th celebrations are being celebrated is due to this thing, this executive order that I'm sure a lot of you guys who, not only subscribe to my channel and Founding Father Stories, but also subscribe to other history content creators, you may have heard about the executive order restoring truth and sanity to American history. It was signed by the president from last year. This order aims to reshape how the Smithsonian Institution and its museums portray American history by removing what it describes as, quote, improper ideology and promoting a narrative of, quote, American greatness. It directs members of the presidential cabinet to work with Congress to defund programs that are seen as divisive, particularly those that acknowledge race or transgender identity. So there was a recent scandal where the exhibit that mentioned George Washington's 9 slaves who lived and worked at his Philadelphia home when he was president of the United States and Philadelphia was the temporary capital. They removed that exhibit like months ago by order of this current federal government because this federal government deemed that talking too much about how slavery was bad is somehow makes you un-American. And I think it really boils down to why I think a lot of these people are, or a lot of the comments that I've been getting are very negative and, not really enthusiastic about the 250th. And I think it's because of the fact that he's trying to put himself at the center of attention. He's trying to make, I don't want to sound like I'm, taking any political sides here, but some of the reports that I've read and some of the things I've heard suggest that he's trying to make it about celebration himself while also coinciding with celebrations of America's founding, right? And another reason, like I said at the beginning of this video, we're living through crazy times right now in the country. And I just want to say this. My love for the United States, again, I'm not telling you how you guys should think. I want you to think, to critically understand, to grasp context and nuance. I don't want you to think like I do. You don't have to agree with me, right? We're all human. We have our own perspectives. We're all Americans. We have a right to disagree. That's why this country was established in the first place. But speaking from my own personal experience, my love of the United States should not be diminished by who's in office. I don't care if it was during Barack Obama's tenure or Joe Biden's tenure or, the current president's tenure or anyone else in any other. I mean, the only presidents that I was alive under was Bush, Obama, the current president back in his first term, Biden, and 47 again in his second non-consecutive term. I was only alive during those presidencies, and while depending on your what side of the aisle you lean on, you may feel about these people one way or the other, but for me personally, I don't understand the mindset that you have to either, you either have to like or dislike this country based on who the president is. So like, I have no doubt that there are some who go to the extreme saying that, this so-and-so president, President X, Y, and Z, they're awful. The country itself sucks. Like that to me that just going way too far. Like, that's going way too extreme. That's ignoring middle ground. It's ignoring the fact that no country is ever going to be perfect, right? No matter how good a president's leadership may be. Like, George Washington is my favorite president, but he was not perfect, and the United States was not perfect even during his time, right? There was still a lot of work in progress that America had to make in its infancy, and there's still a lot of work in progress that we need to make today, right? Multiple things can coexist. So that's just what I wanted to make for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please keep it respectful. Please keep it on topic. Don't resort to insults or name calling or extremes or any of that. I'll see y'all in the next video. Stay safe out there. Talk to you guys later.